going southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I ought to slow down, standing in the pouring rain.
What's going on, guys? Tristan and Tony back with another episode of the One Hell of a Life Outdoor Podcast, and it is One Hell of a Life, and we're here on a podcast ready to talk some good stuff, just us two. It's been a while since it's been us two on a podcast, and yeah, October 18th, it's Wednesday, and what's going on, Dad?
Hey, what's up, son?
Not too much.
Man.
Just in the middle of a grind of a work week and waiting on that spec season to come around, and just trying to freaking get the ducks in a row, no pun intended.
Well, I mean, you know, we just kind of spin off in different circles on this podcast. And did you do what you're supposed to do today? Because you do work for me. This week?
Well, yeah, I had to go all the way down to, I went down to around the perimeter area to go to that one customer we have down there.
God bless your soul.
Yeah, so that was... we have one customer down there, and that's like, I don't know, a 25-minute drive, so I got to do that every once in a while. I went down there and then came back and set an appointment for Monday to hopefully, it's this was actually funny, so it's a hair place, like a hair replacement place, and I texted my dad, and I was like, hey, I just set an appointment for Monday at this hair place. You know, we do commercial cleaning as our day job, but basically we're a franchise-based business, so we have franchise owners that do the cleaning, and part of my job is to sell the account and then, you know, do the operations manager, you know, part at the end, you know, once it's set up. So anyway, so I tell him about this appointment, and he's like, well, I'm bald and I need hair replacement. Maybe I'll go with you.
Yeah. I said, I'll find that common ground with him real quick.
Yeah.
You know, because honestly, you walking in there, they're going to be like, who's this cocky son bitch?
Yeah.
All these people sitting in these chairs getting plugs or whatever the hell's
showing
going
off
on.
with this full head.
Somebody's over there.
Yeah.
Getting their freaking, you know, getting staples put in their head. I don't know
like
what
Bill
happened.
Burr says.
Yeah, dude, just ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom,
Could you
ba-doom.
imagine?
No.
That's got to be.
No, it's not worth it.
No.
You know, honestly, I struggle a lot with it because there was at one time, you know, when I was Tristan's age, and there's pictures of it. There's actually one of me holding up. I had some kind of scary movie T-shirt on, some black, but I'm holding Tristan up like this, and it's his first Christmas, so he's only like a month old, and my hair, my bangs were laying back here on the back of my head. I mean, they were so my bangs would go down to my chin, and I could just fold it all back, and now it would look really bad. It would look really bad. I'd have to do like one of those center cut ponytail mohawks.
Skull it.
No, maybe I should do that. Get a mohawk. I'll have a skull hawk.
Whatever. No.
Anyway, but no, you guys, we got some great stuff to talk about tonight. Some really important stuff, and we got some good topics that I think everybody is interested in right now. And one of them that I've been waiting a little bit to talk about is, and I want you to get yourself in the right mindset here. If you're older, my age, something like that, I would say if you're 40 plus, the way you've learned to hunt, and let's just, I don't want to go down too far of a hole here, but if you learn, let's just take bow hunting, deer, for example, and you learned these certain things like I did. I had a finger tab. I did not have a peep sight on my first bow. It was just one single string. There was a whitetail hunter too. I didn't have nothing but I don't even know if Dollar General was around then, but it was cheapest flashlight, probably Kmart. You know, you were like so happy when they came out with a green or a black one, because it could be like camoed a little bit, you know. But I mean, just that basic of stuff, right? Is my point. Very basic clothing, very basic underlayers, boots, all that stuff, right? So if you're of my generation, we're kind of badasses, honestly, because we learned what we would be proud to say is the old school way. What's really wild is to think that if you're of Tristan's generation or younger, what's your old school way going to be?
Man.
That's a nutty thing to think. Let's talk about that in a second,
yeah.
All right? Because that's going to be a good thing to talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the deal. You learned like I learned. I learned on a recurve bow, wooden arrows. I learned how to take resin, put my tips on, put my nocks on, put my fletchings on. Did it all that way, right? So now today I sit there, and this is why I want to talk about this. You're visualizing this, right? If you're listening. And so now you go to the woods, and this, what made us think a lot about this was our talk with Nate last week.
Mm-hmm.
How easy it is to get where you need to go in the woods. And Tristan was just mind blown that what I used to do with like these USGS maps and order them in the certain like polypropylene. I would get, the white polypropylene for the base layer. And then for the topo layer, I'd do it in clear polypropylene. So I could lay it on top of it, scale it all that stuff. Right. Anyway, now I'm sitting here going, dude, I just follow this.
Mm-hmm.
And I go there instead of, I think about the fear I had as a young boy walking through the woods like that with that cheap flashlight and all this stuff for an hour by myself to go to my tree stand and sit out there by myself. I didn't sit in the tree with my dad to get comfortable with it. I didn't, know that, so now we're at this with technology. And what my question to you is it gotten too easy?
To me, or is this redundant?
To everybody that's listening. Has it gotten too easy?
Rhetorical, I mean.
Right. So a lot of us, like say bow hunting I was talking about, one of the fun things to do that's still on my bucket list is to take a back pedal and shoot a deer with a recurve bow and a wooden arrow that I made with my fletches, my tips, all that stuff. Why? It's cool, right? It's old school. It's fun to do that. All right, so we do that as bow hunters anyway. We like to use old equipment as a fisherman. It's kind of cool to use those old spoons or something like that. And know, man, our forefathers, they caught all that on just a silver spoon or this red and white spoon. They would blast bass with it. It's fun to do that, right? So with the advances of all this technology, are you out there feeling like you would get more out of the sport to take a step back from that technology? You know what I'm saying, Tristan?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, does that make sense? But here's the flip side of it. I'm going to let you talk about this part of it, is all you know is this technology, right? So to you, you're not missing anything except embracing the technology, because that's what you younger folks do. It's just when that stuff comes out, you're like, bam. And whenever something hits, it spreads to you guys like a virus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so why don't you just kind of go into that part of it?
Well, I would say like there's certain things that hit home with me that that make hunting what it is for me. And, for example, not that I have anything wrong with gun hunting, but like the adrenaline of bow hunting, it's like I would be devastated, honestly. And I don't mean to say this in like a piss anybody off kind of way, but I would honestly be upset with myself if I shot the best deer in my life, like the nicest, like first Pope and Young in my life with a gun versus a bow. So there's certain things like that, that are just, that make hunting what it is to me, is what I'm trying to say. And, like my dad talking about these old school values and stuff, there's certain things to him that make hunting what it is to him, and to me, growing up in a generation kind of, I was born in 96, and in my early life, I remember the early technology, there wasn't obviously GPS or stuff like that really, readily available to use during hunting and stuff like that. But, simple stuff like walkie-talkies, would be like the beginning of it. And then before too long, we all had cell phones. We could text each other in the stand. And now we're at this point now where so many young people are probably getting into it that, wouldn't learn the way out to a tree stand without first mapping it out on a GPS first, potentially, And I think back on some of the areas that traditionally I've grown up hunting with my dad, and like I know them like the back of my hand, not as good as he does, but I know the fire lanes and how to get to stands like the back of my hand, the arteries of the big woods, I guess you can call them, to get to the place I want to be. And, I guess people still learn those things, with
Well, I
time.
forced you to.
Well, and we didn't have, at the time, you couldn't pull up a phone and walk down the, GPS route of where you need to go down these fire lanes or anything like that.
And not to interrupt you, Tristan, but what I mean by forced you to is a great example is whenever you shot that buck on public land. I had shot my double split G2 buck on public land the day before, and I told you guys I'm not going hunting in the morning. Now, part of that was selfish because I got pretty jacked up, all right? And I had this dream of laying next to the fire while everybody else was out hunting.
It was also 7 degrees.
It was. Yeah, this is why I was dreaming of that. I was like, dude, I just want to lay next to this fireplace and just sleep in. And I made him go out there by himself. Quite honestly, I've always been kind of the father that I'm kind of a safety guy. And like, if I could do it, I'd rather put myself in a position of hanging the tree stand and falling than my son doing that. It gives me so much anxiety to think about you being up there doing it that most of the time that's why I did it, because, but now I've gotten older and I've been like, F all that, you let him go to work. I'm not working, but, no, we do share the load with that stuff, but, don't let me get off topic.
Now, and to get back to, what you were saying about, just how kind of my thoughts on growing up with so much technology and it being so ingrained with what hunting is now. I think it's great for a lot of different things. We use Huntwise and it definitely makes us have success. And there's things that we do, we don't go hunting certain days because we can look at the wind so easy and stuff like that.
The last 3 evenings.
Yeah. And there's certain things that it's great for, but I think there's certain things that, I think that if you hunt long enough, you're going to come across these things that you feel like, man, I want that challenge, So you talk about using primitive stuff and, whatever you were saying earlier, but that's a challenge,
Why people shoot a muzzleloader.
Right. So everybody's got their challenge, right. And to me, it's like the bow hunting, and just everybody's got their thing that I think will, I think will even itself out, this whole technology thing. I think it's great for a lot of reasons. There's some reasons we got to work on, I think, that are a little bit taking away from it. Like you get into some of this drone scouting and shit like that. Like that's a little bit of a gray area where it's like, okay, sure, you can figure out where those ducks are. You might be able to see. I mean, I guess if you're surveying a big picture of deer hunting land, it's not that big of a deal, but like see where these ducks are or whatever, and you don't have to go take your boat out there and walk out there, why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to see how those birds are acting, where specifically where they're flying into?
But you don't, if you don't
know better.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know
you
better,
just don't. Because of the way it is. It's no different with everything that we're attached to. We're going to talk about some other stuff that relates to that tonight. But no, but what I was meaning by me forcing you to go out that morning, Tristan, was
you weren't forcing anything. I'm trying to do bud.
No, I know this. But what you were used to was me and my dad. We go and do that, and that's what we do, right? Well, that morning,
but still, where you were hunting from where I was hunting was a 30-minute walk by myself.
I'm just preaching it from my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What I said to myself was, it's that morning. I said to myself, I told him he was going to kill a buck, and I said to myself,
it'd be early too.
Yep. I said it's going to be first light, and that's exactly what happened. It doesn't make me a genius. It's just there's this aura feeling, people. There is spirit of the wild. I don't know what you call it, but when you know, you know. And I knew that morning. Maybe it was because I was all jacked up over shooting this big guy, whatever it was. But in my mind, I said, it's time for him to be a hunter on his own. It's time for him to go out and make that happen by himself, not walking out, me going, make sure you do this, have your safety belt on. I don't care. You're always a dad. I don't care how old you get, how old your children get. You're always a dad. Just like they say, a mom is always a mom, and to me, that was important to allow you to do that. And to see you go do that was an incredible thing. I don't want to get off topic down that story. The point is that was something you learned on your own by going out and doing it without all this technology to lead you there, to do all that stuff. You went out and did that thing. You know what I mean? And that was just kind of like part of learned art, so to speak.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, do you have anything else to talk about? Anything else you want to say when it comes to that technology thing? One thing I'll say with that, though, is you mentioned the trail cameras. Are you a more of a badass hunter if you can shoot a giant buck without trail cameras?
My thought on trail cameras is that, I mean, unless you got a lot of property, from what I've gathered, at the end of the day during the rut, if you're not out there and, you know, playing the wind and, you know, certain things you can control, but if you're not out there in that sand, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you never know what's going to come by. You think, I mean, some of these guys, like, you see stuff every year of like, oh, 12-year-old shoots a 300-inch buck, like new potential world record. It's like, do you think that 12-year-old or his dad had any idea that was going to come by? No, it was just the...
Well, they might have put themselves in better position for it to
Well,
happen.
that's why I was saying with the wind and those kind of things you can control. But, like, you know, again, to kind of taking away a little bit of the experience for me, I guess I would say about technology is like, the cameras are great. We use them. It's nice to know what's in the area. It's cool when you see bucks and whatever, you know. But part of the magic of the state park we hunt in Illinois is that truly it's such a big area of woods that historically have nice deer that you never know. I mean, people kill, even to this day, people take 180-inch deer off that property every single year almost, you know. And you just never, you got to be in the stand, you know.
It's the land of the giants. And it happens in Ohio. It happens in Iowa. It happens in Kansas. It happens in Texas. It happens a lot of these.
What I will say is I think you are a little bit more badass if you shoot one and you didn't know it was coming. And,
all right. So let's build on that, Tristan.
But what I will say is nothing wrong. Like, I saw just Josh Bomar, I think, just shot like one of his biggest Iowa bucks that he's had on camera for years and years, and he's literally said that he designed this property for that one buck.
Let's do this.
That's pretty badass too.
You know, one thing that intrigues me all the time when I'm going through social media? LeBron or Jordan? All right? Intriguing to me because of the comparisons, right? I'm not going to go down that. If you're a LeBron, you're a LeBron. If you're a Jordan, you're a Jordan. Of course, I'm a Jordan, all right? Just because of my age. Absolutely. But check this out. My mom, in 1984 through 1990, is she the best woman bow hunter ever? Could you argue that? I'm just using her as an example. We can talk about elk hunters. We can talk about other deer hunters. We can talk about Chuck Adams. We can talk about Fred Bear. We can go on and on. Jim Shockey. I mean, we can go on and on some incredible people, right? That have been through the old school parts of being, like what I said, does it make you more of a badass hunter? I think it's really cool that if you're listening to this right now and you're like, dude, I need another challenge. Take away your trail cameras and get the benefit. I haven't done this yet, but I think it really puts you on a, man, it's a tough place mentally to say, man, I'm going to go do this without that. I'm going to go do this. I mean, we do it with recurve bows. We do it with our muzzle loaders. We do crossbows for people that don't want to shoot a gun but want that gun experience, whatever it is.
Well, you know, one thing I would say on that is like, my feeling on that is more so predicated on public land hunting, because you never know what's going to happen, who's going to kick a deer to you or whatever. You know, you can't control all these factors. If you have a property that's 100% your property and you can control all the factors and you're targeting a big buck or whatever, that's probably the move, is to use those cameras. I mean, to maximize your time, you know. Sure. But even I just think on an area that you just don't really know what can happen, that's what my take on that is. You know, you don't really know what's going to happen anyway, so just go out there. It doesn't really matter what the camera says, right? Because you're on public land. Somebody could walk in on you and screw your whole hunt up. So
Well, all right, let me flip this around then. All right. I tell you, you're a private landowner, right? You're doing all this management and all this stuff, right? I tell you that this year, I just want you to tell me what it's going to feel like.
Theoretical?
Yep. If I tell you this year, I'm taking all of your cameras. And you got to hunt. What's that initially make you feel like?
A little bit of anxiety, but
Yes.
But the first thing that popped into my head when you said that is like, okay, back to some of these things that are learned, unlearned things, you know? So like, what am I going to do? I can still check the wind. I know where the food sources are. I can look at topography. I can look at all these different factors on deer where you can still set yourself up in a good position to shoot deer regardless of trail cameras. Now, that might be something that people that are new to the sport don't, or, you know, never learned any of that stuff.
That's where I'm going with all this.
Never
all right?
had, and maybe because I'm on the fringe of with and without, you know, growing up with you taking me out, you know, that's where my mind refers to, but other people might not have that database to fall back on.
That's exactly where I'm going with this. And this relates to everything we've been talking about in this subject tonight. And I talked about this a little bit on the last podcast. When you're passenger in the seat, you don't know where the hell you're going anymore. Right. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. And honestly, when you take an example of when we first moved here to Atlanta, dude, I went the same route. I don't even know how many times, right? With Google Maps or Apple Maps. But if I was going to get up that morning and somebody took it away and the exact route that I go, I'm going to have anxiety because I have not had to think about the turn coming up.
Yeah.
I haven't. I haven't had to take into consideration the slow spots or, you know, any of that stuff. So that's when it does the same thing psychologically to you, right? So we as hunters, especially of the generation of me, I'm talking about, y'all, we better get our asses in gear and teach these folks a little bit more. It's so easy to just jump on this technology and go. But at the end of the day, I'm going to wrap this subject up with this, unless you got anything else to add, Tristan. You better be a mentor. And you better be doing something about it, because if you don't, these people aren't going to know what the hell happens if the internet goes down. I mean,
True.
It's so serious. Like Billy was even saying, he goes, it blows my mind how many young people I see that if they don't have a signal, they're lost. And it's also a safety issue in that regard, you know, but what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? It's no different than Survivor Man talking about going out there with your best whatever brand GPS and it goes down. Now what are you going to do?
Right.
If you better start thinking about some of that stuff, folks, and we better start taking that a little bit more serious.
Yeah. I mean, and just from the aspect of like the most simple aspect of being to wanting to carry on tradition so they don't get lost, you know, that's what, you know, ultimately a lot of that stuff, you know, falls under. So
yeah, and we didn't even talk about one of the biggest things of this, but I will just end it with this, and that is one of the skill sets of blood trailing. You know, I don't care if we have dogs and drones. That is awesome, because I will say this, man, if I shoot an animal, I don't care if it's a squirrel. Honestly, any animal I shoot, a duck, it means more because when it's a big game animal, but it's still life. You know, I want to retrieve that animal. If I can utilize that technology, just like how many cripples do dogs save a year in the waterfowl industry? I mean, who knows?
Right.
I mean, a ton, because we've hunted in environments that you can't use a dog because gators and stuff like that. And dude, we lost cripples and gators ate them and stuff like that. But you know, it's in the teens that morning, and maybe you're chasing ducks or geese. But now it's September and it's 85 degrees and you're hunting early teal or geese. As a waterfowler, you need dependable weather protection that will not break the bank. Founded in 1996, Frog Togs is not only the leader in breathable wader technology, but a company you can depend on to keep you warm and dry, head to toe. no matter your hunting environment. Stay bone dry by using discount code ZD315 for 15% off not only your first purchase, like most discount codes, but how about every single purchase you make from now until December 31st, 2024? That's a pretty extensive thing to think about.
All right, guys. So another topic we wanted to get into is just how we portray hunting to other people, especially people who don't hunt. It's no secret that less and less hunters are going out every single year, it seems like anyway. I know there's been some upticks, in isolated things. It seems like bow hunting's making a little bit of a, comeback and things like that. But what can we really do as hunters to portray things in a better light so that it's more palatable to the non-hunter?
Well, why? Well, let's first, before we dive into that, why is it so important?
Mm-hmm.
So why is it so important? Resources.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, we are a quote unquote minority to the larger piece of the population.
Mm-hmm.
While we think that everybody is just like us, they are not. There are millions of people that live on pavement all their life that never experience the outdoors, that do not agree with what we do. Why? They don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
They might isolated not understand it. They might not agree with it because of a post that you made. It might be a post of you showing a bird with its head blown off, laying there, and you're talking about how happy you are to do this. All right. Imagine that from a person's perspective that grew up in a condo in New York and has walked on pavement all their life in a high-rise building. Imagine what they think about that. Mm-hmm. That's the larger of the population, y'all. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is. So Tristan and I feel that this is an incredibly important topic to talk about tonight, and that is how we portray ourselves as hunters to other people. So Tristan, take off with that. I know we wanted, one of the things that we want to talk about is, and this goes all the way back to somebody that taught me, is how we portray our kills.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, a lot
how
of
we show it.
One thing we've always been big on is just, like, for example, with the deer, the tongue not hanging out of its mouth, or, if you didn't make a ethical shot on the deer and
shooting it from the other side.
Yeah, and just things like that, like, obviously if you accidentally spine shot a deer or, something gut shot or whatever, if you can show that where it's not all bloody and gory and those things, that aren't great to talk about, I just think we've always thought it just makes it that much more presentable, showing off how beautiful that animal is,
How incredible of a trophy it is.
Yeah, if it's a double lung shot and it's got blood all dripping out of its nose, why not just clean that off?
Wipe that off.
Yeah, make it just look a little bit more presentable.
Absolutely. Tristan, have you ever seen me post a picture publicly with anybody, anything, or shown a family member or anything of a deer? I've shot deer where I've ripped them open, bro. I'm like, look at the size of the hole on that. As a hunter, it feels good that my equipment operated that way and made a successful kill quickly.
Yeah.
There are some of you that might be listening to this podcast right now that want to throw that on social media and brag about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't gain you shit.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It might gain you something short term.
Right, in the echo chamber of hunters.
Of people that we are trying to talk to right now.
Right.
It's going to be that isolated minority group.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got to remove that group.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do here with this. All right. So y'all, go look on our pages. Go look at our kills and how we portray them. You're not going to see a lot of pictures of blood, like Tristan said, coming out of the nose or anything like that. Man, we do whatever we can to make that animal look, especially with big game, as beautiful as possible.
Yeah.
So
And when it's ducks or whatever, it's like we take a lot of pride in that too, just having them, set out in a perfect way. It's showing all
what's our argument versus
wing patches, yeah, and a lot of people do the belly up thing, and if you put your ducks belly down, you're not a true duck hunter. All right, high horse.
All right,
listen,
what can't you do when they're Tristan? Let me just ask this: what can't you do when that duck is facing belly up? What can't you show off?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So,
right,
one of the biggest, most beautiful things of ducks are A, their head, and B, their wing patch.
Yes.
So, why would you not want to lay them all out where you can, we try to position them a lot of times where you can see, if it's a bunch of stud drakes, boom, all their heads, bop, 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 their wings, bop, bop, bop. But it's those little things that's wow, that's a beautiful bird versus a pile of ducks. And at the end of the day, it's they're ducks, and I get, people are taking quick pictures. No, it's cool, or whatever. But it's just these little things that for somebody might get one more person to get into hunting,
or just understand
why.
Yeah, because that big population of people that we need to get to understand, Tristan, are the ones that control the numbers of these decisions that are being made, and we gotta bridge a gap. There's a big gap here that we gotta bridge. All right, so that first thing is how we show off our harvest. That's a big thing. And if you want any tips from us, please, this is a passionate thing that we do. Reach out to us about that. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about that was how we speak about it. The words that come out of our mouth, the texts, the posts, all this stuff, whether it's in public or it's private, what comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Tristan, drill down on some of that.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really kind of important to me too, because I would say out of your mouth, also out of your fingers, typing onto your Facebook post, your Instagram post, or whatever. One of the big things I love to do is be here's a meal, here's an awesome meal I put together with this deer or whatever. And then I share that. And I've several times posted a before of me holding the deer and then steak or whatever, a deer loin chopped up looking all pretty and things like that. Because my ultimate goal at the end of the day with that post is to people that I'm friends with that don't understand why I would want to go shoot a beautiful deer.
Yeah.
It's because there's a lot of reasons, but at the most basic value is I can provide good, healthy meat, for my friends and family and enjoy it and stuff like that and create a beautiful meal, So say a picture says 1,000 words or whatever, that's what we're kind of getting at with, your words here. You can portray things to people in a good way to make it more palatable, like I was saying earlier, where if they have no idea where you're coming from, well, if you show them, wow, look at this beautiful thing that looks like a dinner from a damn steakhouse or something. What is that? Well, that's venison. How do you get venison? I go out and deer hunt. And then you open the conversation, you know, and all of a sudden that's that simple thing that wasn't a bloody deer all laying there all jacked up. It's a key to opening that conversation with somebody that likes to eat meat but doesn't understand why you hunt,
Right. Well, so let's do this. You just smoked them on a duck hunt or goose hunt, right? Where do we always go afterwards? Waffle House.
Yep.
All right? Or wherever you go to eat. We go to Waffle House and we're sitting there, me, you, other buddies that we hunted with, and we're sitting there going, dude, you remember when that one flew in? Just shot his head off. Dude, man, we just wrecked him. We murdered him. We murdered those geese. We murdered them. You're sitting there having that conversation, and there's a husband and a wife with two, let's say, 6-10-year-old kids sitting there. Do you think those kids know anything about hunting if they weren't raised in that environment?
Right.
All they hear is that you just murdered an animal. You've set the wrong expectation just from what came out of your mouth. Be aware of what you say. A spoken word flies. You can't catch it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. And so we have to represent what we do here in a very professional way.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to hide anything. We just don't need to brag about stupid shit.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to sit there and talk about that stuff. Now, if we've been guilty of that, I bet we have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we have. All right. But having this motivation for what we're talking about tonight is probably a staple that me and Tristan are going to take even more serious now, and really, because honestly, we, not that we're anything special, but we're a voice of media, and so it's our jobs first to lead by example, because we are out there talking to all of y'all. I mean, so this is something we're going to take very seriously, even more so now. But yeah, we have to watch what is coming out of our mouths, what's coming off our fingers, man. I mean, I think rolls into what's coming off our fingers is more so than conversation in person that applies to this right now is, okay, they're not a hunter, they're an anti-hunter, right? If you are a hunter and you post on social media, you have had an anti-hunter, or what you would call, let's just start that. What you would call an anti-hunter, say, why would you do that? I can't believe you did that. It's a beautiful animal. All those things. There is a percentage of you that we're speaking to tonight that you're an asshole. All right? You take it personal, and you have to buff up your chest, and you have to say something and get in the fight. You have to try to win the fight right then. And you're taking it with the wrong type of attitude, right? Our partners at Huntwise are offering an exclusive discount for Zero Duck 30 followers. As an elite member, some of the features you'll immediately gain access to are Huntcast, Windcast, peak kill times, property lines, owner information and phone lookup, 250 map layers, unlimited offline maps, 3D maps, social media, and on top of it all, save up to 50% on some of the top hunting brands in the industry. Download and explore the #1 hunting tool set today and save 20% by using code DUCK30. So basically, don't be a jerk. All right? That's the point I'm getting at. Don't be a jerk with those folks. And again, you might think they're an anti-hunter. They just don't understand your world because of that larger population I talked about, Tristan.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I'm going with all this. You got anything you want to add on that topic?
No, I mean, that's spot on,
Right on. So what is the best way, or not the best way, but one of the ways that we can have common ground with these folks is promoting conservation. They love the animals. We do too. Mm-hmm. We don't make the decisions of how many animals need to be taken. That is done by scientists and biologists and people that are in very professional fields to set these limits. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole whether the limits are right or not. But there's people there between us and the person that doesn't hunt that are in charge of doing that. That's not my job. It's not the person that doesn't hunt's job. But what we do have in common is that we love these animals and we want to keep them and we want their habitat to be maintained. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look what the sea turtle thing did. Look what the stuff with the whales, look at the polar bear, the melting ice, all this stuff, right? We need that large population, people. So what do we have in common with that? They love their animals. All right. That's why we have all these, don't get me started about pet daycares and all that shit. All right. It drives me crazy about how much we can love animals. But anyway, point is, they love animals. We love animals. What we can talk about is conservation and keeping the land that we have, because it's just, we all see it, man. It's going away so fast, right? So you were talking about like food could be a common ground. Mm-hmm. I do think, unless I can think of something else, that conservation is probably the #1 thing.
Yeah, it's got to be.
What do you think? What's some of the things that we can do, Tristan, that relate to conservation or topics or conversations that we're having with folks? Like, how would you interact with somebody? Should we use it as a tool to say that, hey, let me tell you something. I know we don't agree that I'm killing these animals, but maybe we should just be a little bit better salesmen with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. No, I think, I think a lot of people that don't like hunting, they're really not really educated on conservation at all, to be honest. And I think, they just start looking at it at face value, like never knowing anything about it. Oh, they're killing an animal. That's the bad guy. But I think, just a little bit of, throwing some facts out, like, I don't know them off the top of my head, but if you look at the deer and turkey numbers from, I don't know, late 1800s to now, through the roof. Like, you go through the duck numbers, like, you go through these different numbers and you look at the timeline of, like, Pittman Robertson and some of these other things. And if you explain these things to these people of how, there's a certain percentage of our dollars that go to conservation, every dollar we spend towards X, Y, and Z, shells, bullets, all that other stuff, arrows, you name it, that go towards conservation. And that's why these animals are having these great success stories. I just think it makes them listen like, wow, okay, well, it kind of like opening a door with the food thing, it opens a door to like common ground. Yeah. That's really what I'm trying to say. So
yeah. I'll tell you, and I can't believe this is applicable, but I just watched a rerun of Northwoods Law last night. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember who the game warden was. Shout out to him if you guys know who this game warden is. But he saw some people fishing. He's going to check them. Goes up to check them. It was a guy and two girls. They didn't look like fishermen. All right. They, you could judge them, I guess, and I'll leave it at that. But they didn't look like fishermen. So, but he was just doing his job and checked them. It was the very first time that this guy had taken these two girls fishing. Looked like his girlfriend's friends or whatever. Actually, it was two guys, but there was one main guy there. The game warden came up, asked them for their licenses. They didn't have them. He told them the reason, that, hey, you're supposed to have a license. Their immediate response was, the girls said, this is the first time we ever been fishing and we'll never go again. But here's what he did that was a great thing. He gave him tickets. But he said, before he gave him the ticket and let him go, he said, listen, the fishing license is this much. I want you to understand that when you pay for that fishing license, this is what it does.
Yeah.
Those two girls, I didn't hear him say anything about not fishing again, but it sure looked like to me that something clicked. And that really is a great, he did a great
testimony to painting the right pictures.
He did a great job of closing it out with that. And I was like, wow. Last night when I watched that, I thought that was really cool. He turned that thing, he cared enough to change that perception around, and it was really applicable to what we're talking about tonight.
Well, that's, one thing just with like the federal duck stamp is a great, in the world of waterfowl, a thing that, okay, so you love animals, you want to support them, you love ducks and all that other stuff. Why don't you buy a federal duck stamp, $25, that's going towards the conservation of these animals? You don't have to hunt, just buy that.
Did y'all know that a large percentage of the federal duck stamp that's bought is by non-hunters?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I believe it because, I follow a couple birding pages just from, so I can get some little insight on some duck activity.
Pretty slick, actually.
Yeah, some duck activity. You'll be following one of these pages and they'll be like, yeah, I saw a freaking, I don't know, a great blue heron and a warbler and all this other crap.
I saw
a mottled duck and a blue-winged teal, and this is in where so-and-so Florida or whatever. You're like, sweet, the ducks are here.
Or you hear, saw speckled-belly goose in Northeast Florida. You're like, hell yeah, dude, we might shoot a speckled-belly goose tomorrow.
You might shoot one speckled-belly goose.
Yeah, right, but no.
Speaking of which, if anybody here listening to this podcast has heard of somebody shooting a speckled-belly goose in Georgia or Florida, or has shot one, please message us because I want to know about it. Because the snow goose when there's a random snow goose shot, in Florida or Georgia, that alone's amazing. But man, a speck being shot in Florida and Georgia would be pretty sweet.
That would be, man. So conservation in a wrap here is one of the biggest ties that we can have with those folks.
Mm-hmm.
In the outdoors, every detail counts. See sharper, aim clearer. From the river's edge to the heart of the flooded timber, Hook and Bullet has your vision covered. Hook and Bullet's purpose-built optics are flawlessly crafted to give you an edge regardless of your outdoor pursuit. Use code ZeroDuck30 for 15% off a pair of Hook and Bullet sunglasses today.
All right, guys. And one of the other, big topics we wanted to bring up tonight is this farm. I'll just let you go into it, Tony, because you got it sitting in front of you. But it's pretty neat stuff.
So, do you guys know about the Farm Bill? There's different parts of the Farm Bill, but do you guys know anything about it? Well, I'm going to tell you guys that you need to, and I'm going to read this right out of Delta Waterfowl. All right. So, basically, it says here that the Farm Bill is the number one biggest funded conservation piece in America. Dude, how big did Pittman Robertson thing pull up? All these other conservation programs and things that we do, state and local, federal, all this stuff. I had no idea that this was as big as it is. They only vote on this every 5 years. All right. Have you guys ever heard of CRP? Of course you have. All right. It's Conservation Reserve Program. I didn't know that until tonight. I just knew the CRP. I was reading it. All right. Have you ever heard of WRE as a waterfowler? Wetland Reserve Easement. I didn't know what that was. I just knew it as WRE. These things are part of this Farm Bill. It's voted on every year by the U.S. government. Every 5 years by the U.S. government. Here's where we're at with it. I'm just going to nutshell this stuff, guys. You need to go look and see what's going on because we got a big problem on our hands. The last news I have that I was able to pull up, Tristan, was a news publication out of Maryland. And basically, this was 2 weeks ago. And it says the Farm Bill has expired. Congress is months away from a new version. Dude, that's pretty spooky. Mm-hmm. That we're talking about the largest conservation funded program in the United States. All right. Basically, this is what they're saying, you guys. By averting a federal shutdown at least until mid-November, Congress kept some critical government agricultural programs alive, but others will effectively be in limbo until lawmakers pass a new farm bill. It says that they are months away from passing a new farm bill. That freaks me out.
Right.
If I'm a farmer, it really freaks me out.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to this and you're a hunter, an outdoors person, it really better freak you out. Because if you're getting funding for CRP, you might not be.
Yeah.
All right. You might have bought this piece of property because that's part of your return. You might not be getting those things. Y'all, we better do something about it.
And I think why we're just kind of on this topic, one thing we should probably go into just for people that don't know, kind of really what we're talking about. Why are those things important? Well, essentially, they're both refuges for, CRP. If my understanding is correct, you're talking bedding area for deer.
How's it benefit you as a hunter?
Right. You're right. Yeah. You're talking your bedding area potential. I understand for farmers, you're getting paid set aside land for, subsidies from the government. But like as a hunter, this could be. And
there's environmental benefits of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, of these WREs and CRPs. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of them being waterfowl or deer,
yep,
being in those areas because they feel safe and they have food.
From the cricket.
Yeah.
From the crustacean, whatever, right, yeah, the bug to the from the bee to the whatever, dude. We've talked to enough biologists to know that they always tell us that, like, look, it's not all about the deer. It's not all about the gator. It's not all about the duck.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of things that have to go into conservation and property and things like that make this. I'll just say this. If you've owned a saltwater fish tank, you understand. Because you have to balance everything perfect or you're losing money. I like a lot of money, right? So, but in what you're saying, Tristan, here's what it says in Delta Thunder. It's so hilarious. We love our deltas, and we love Delta the dog too. But it says, remember that on the prairie breeding duck grounds, more than 90% of the duck habitat resides in private ownership and is simultaneously working for the benefit of farming and ranching families. It's no different in Kansas, Louisiana, California, or Virginia. As a result, the Farm Bill is the place to make a difference for ducks and incentivize good conservation on working farms and ranches. Dude, 90%? 90% of the habitat. That is nuts. Do you guys understand what the government can do to us right now? What they can do? And now they're not, I mean, there's going to be one of those folks we talked about earlier that is the biggest voice of conservation when it comes to this.
Well, it's more so, it is what they can do for us, but if I'm understanding it correct, it's more so the pinch that they could put on farmers.
Oh, yeah.
That in turn, because they're like, well, I'm not getting subsidized through the government. Now I got to plant X, Y, and Z in these areas to try to make some money. And guess what? Now that's not a waterfowl habitat anymore.
Yep.
If I'm understanding.
Yeah. I mean, it could be minute, and I'm no farmer, so correct me if I'm wrong if you're a farmer and you listen to this. But let's just take this small example. Your rotation of crop, all right? You want to rotate crop to do this, X, Y, or Z. How many times has you as a deer hunter, all right, specific, you're like, dude, when that farmer cuts that corn, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. All right. Yeah, that's a personal, like, okay, this is going to benefit me. But do you have any idea if they left that corn cut, those stubble standing, how much that impacts the environment from top to bottom, from the chipmunk to the squirrel to the rotting of the corn kernel to I don't know if a freaking fly larva lives in it. I don't know, whatever. All right. If we remove that and a farmer specifically doesn't do that and he plows your field that you were so pumped up about, he might be having to plow it because, Siri, shut up. He might have had to plow it because of the subsidies that he's not getting from whatever act or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to get that in the ground immediately.
Right.
Or I can have to grow corn here twice and I have to fertilize all this and it costs all this extra money to do all that. And now this means the habitat doesn't mean shit at that point. Do you want coffee that doesn't suck? Get the Duck. Dirty Duck coffee is made specifically for the waterfowl enthusiast. Enjoy flavors like Morning Wood, Dark Dynasty, Cinnamon Teal Snickerdoodle, and First Flight to unlock the flavor that you'll enjoy in the blind for years to come. Our friends at Dirty Duck Coffee Company are now offering all Zero Duck 30 followers a 15% discount when you use code ZeroDuck15 on your next order. You know, I don't have all the facts when it comes to this thing, but here's what we want to get out. The urgent response that we need to do as hunters immediately, y'all. If you're listening to this, I can tell you this, Tristan, as soon as I get off this podcast, because, I mean, we found this like right before the podcast. I was shocked that I didn't know it. I feel bad that I didn't know it. I'm going to be like, this is what I'm doing when I go to bed at night. I'm going to be researching this and learning as much as I can because it's kind of tough, honestly, to find a lot of stuff about it. But you can go back and look at what the last approval was in 2018. You know, there's different parts of the Farm Bill, different sections of it you can research and stuff. But here's the thing, man. If you have a chance to make a voice in this, please do. If you're in a political position and you're listening to this, and you know, I mean, honestly, we're not even close to intelligent enough to go down that avenue. But if you have a way to help us get the word out to more people, please reach out to us. We would appreciate that. Appreciate your help. If you're one of those folks, we would really love it to get in touch with us. But really, that's all I had to say about that, Tristan. I mean, it's just like Delta says here, man. Every farm bill is critical. Duck and duck hunters have a vital stake in the every 5 years legislation. So keep that on your map.
Yep. Well, right on, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode. We just want to take an opportunity to kind of bring up some topics that have been on our mind recently and haven't really been able to get to. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. And that's really all I had. You got anything?
I just tell you, I think one of the best sources we can have for information is what our folks want to listen to. And listen, you're not going to be like feeling like you're telling us what to do. If you've got an opinion about something and you've got a story to tell or something unique or something that you want to hear us talk about or dig in, and Tristan and I will do the work, man. We'll go and do the work for you and research and do whatever we have to. Please message us personally, message Zero Duck 30, message, the One Hell of a Life podcast, anything. And we would love to bring that information to you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you've been listening to us to a while and hadn't had the opportunity to, we'd really appreciate if you'd go and drop us a review and rate us 5 stars and all that good stuff on whatever platform you listen to. And just appreciate your guys' support. And we'll see y'all next week.
It's one hell of a life, son.
That's right.
I've been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I ought to slow down, standing in the pouring rain.